Hello everyone, welcome to the series of video lectures in which we are discussing General Studies Mains 2019 paper. Today, the question which we have selected was asked in GS Mains 2019 paper 1 under Art and Culture section. The question is, highlight the Central Asian and Greco-Bactrian elements in the Gandhar art. The question was of 10 marks and it had to be answered in around 150 words. So in this video, first we will try to understand the terms Indo-Greeks and Central Asians. Then we will try to understand that how they contributed towards the development of Gandhar art and what is Gandhar art. There will be a special emphasis on photographs taken from museums across the world to clearly show the different identifiable features of Gandhar art. So let's begin with the discussion. Now, Gandhar art or Buddhist art as a topic is extremely important from the perspective of civil services mains examination, and this can be easily reflected by having a look at past 7 years question paper. So starting with 2014, UPSC in GS1 paper asked, Gandhar's sculpture owed as much as to the Romans as to the Greeks. Explain. So in this question, UPSC asked to delineate the contribution of Romans as well as Greeks in Gandhar sculpture. Then in 2016, UPSC again in GS1 paper asked, early Buddhist stupa art while depicting folk motifs and narratives successfully expounds Buddhist ideals. Although not directly related to Gandhar art, this particular question also focuses on Buddhist sculptures. Then in 2019, the question which we are going to discuss, UPSC asked, highlight the Central Asian and Greco-Bactrian elements in the Gandhar art. Even if you analyze the question papers going before 2013, UPSC has asked questions along the similar lines, and hence it becomes extremely important for us to understand the various features of Gandhar art. Before we go into the details and understand various aspects of this art, it is important for us to have a look at Mains Compass 2019 magazine published by Rao's IAS before Mains 2019. This particular image has been taken from the same document. You will find this image on page number 14 of Mains Compass 2019 Art and Culture edition. A clear differentiation between Gandhar, Mathura and Amravati art has been made on these 6 aspects. Where did it develop? Who were the patron kings? Which religion influenced it? What were the external factors that influenced it? What material is composed of? Features of the Buddhist culture. So it can be said that we were able to predict this question, and in the Gandhar art section you will see that it has a lot of Greek influence and is also called Greco-Indian school of art or Hellenistic sculpture. Now we shall start by first understanding what the Gandhar art is. Now Gandhar art is distinct style of sculpture which emerged in northwest India, which means in the region of Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa of Pakistan today. Now Gandhar art is a product of combination of Hellenistic, which basically means Greco features, then it also has Central Asian characteristics, and Hellenistic and Central Asian features combined with the local elements to produce a unique art form which we call as Gandhar art. Now, as far as the religion is concerned, Gandhar art is mainly Buddhist in depiction. Now, UPSC in 2019 has asked to delineate or to differentiate Hellenistic or Indo-Greek or Greco-Bactria, they are the same terms, features in Gandhar art as well as Central Asian features in the Gandhar art. So first what we will do is we will understand that from where Indo-Greek and Central Asian features emerged in local art form to produce Gandhar art. Now as we know that Gandhar art is a synthesis of Indo-Greek art with the local tradition in the northwestern region of India. Now for that to happen, Greeks need to come to India and rule some time and patronize their own art and architecture. So the influx of Indo-Greeks started post 200 BC, and the reason mainly was that After the decline of Mauryans and basically after the death of Ashoka, the successors of Ashoka were too weak to guard this frontier, and hence multiple foreign invasions took place from this direction. And Greeks were the first to invade and successfully establish their rule in this region of the country. In the beginning of the 2nd century BC, the Indo Greeks occupied a large part of northwestern India, a much larger area than that conquered by Alexander. Now, the Greeks who ruled this region and stayed back in India are known as Indo Greeks. Let's talk about their contribution to art. Indo Greek rule is important in the history of India because of the large number of coins that the Greeks issued. The Indo Greeks were the first rulers in India to issue coins that can be definitely attributed to particular kings. This is not possible in the case of early punch mark coins, which cannot be assigned with certainty to any particular dynasty. After the arrival of Greeks in India, it has become extremely easy for the historians to trace the genealogy or the lineage of various kingdoms, as the coins had clearly stated since then to which dynasty does it belong to. So that is a big contribution of Indo-Greeks. Also, the Indo-Greeks were first to issue gold coins in India, and these increased in number later on under the rule of Central Asians or Kushans. Now, the most relevant contribution of Indo Greeks towards art in India is that they introduced features of Hellenistic art in northwest frontier of India combined with the local tradition to form Gandhar art. Now, it was not purely a Greek art, but it had many Indian features as well. Now, after the rule of Indo Greeks in this region ended, the Kushans, who came from Central Asia, ruled over vast territories of north from 1st to 3rd century AD, and they promoted art, especially the sculpture forms in India, which led to further development of Gandhar art as well as Mathura art. And they introduced Central Asian features into Gandhar art. Now it's time to analyze Greek as well as Central Asian features of Gandhar art. Now, the first and the most important change introduced by the Indo Greek art was that Buddha was conceived in human form for the first time in Gandhar. Before the introduction of Greek art into India, Buddha had never been conceptualized in image form or idol form. Buddha had always been represented with the use of symbols. Let us understand this with example of images. On the left hand side, you see an image which is purely an Indian tradition of art, and on the right hand side, you have an image of Indo Greek sculpture. Now, in both the scenarios, the same event has been drawn, but in a different manner. Now, the image on the left side shows the Mahaparinirvan of Buddha. That means the death of Buddha has been shown on a panel in Bharut Stupa. Now, in this panel, you can clearly see that there is no Buddha visible. Rather, there is a presence of Bodhi tree on his place. Now, before the influence of Greek art started in Indian sculpture, the representation of Buddha or the idea of Buddhism or the Buddha was considered to be too abstract to be represented in human form, and hence a lot of symbols were used to represent various ideas related to Buddha. But the sculptures on the right hand side show the same Mahaparinirvan, and you can see in this image how Buddha has been provided a central status in the image. You can easily see the grieving disciples surrounding his dead body. So this was the first change introduced by the Greek, was the representation of Buddha in human form. Here is the another set of images to show the same difference. The image on the left shows the birth of Buddha in Indian tradition. Buddha cannot be seen in the image, but it is represented with the help of a Jatak Katha known as a dream of Maya Devi. The image on the right side clearly showed Buddha taking birth from the stomach of her mother. So image on the right side is Gandhar art having Greek influence, and the image on the left side is a sculpture of purely Indian tradition found on Bharut panel. Now moving on to the second Greco element of Gandhar art is the formulation of 32 rules for carving out an image or sculpture of Buddha. Now, the rules were laid down, and the characteristic features associated with the bodily representation of Buddha were mentioned in Mahapurush Lakshan, that means traits of a great person, in which the rules were made for anatomical representation or presentation of Buddha idol, in which it was stated that Buddha idol must have a hair knot as well as wavy hairs. He should have bindi between two eyebrows. Then the ears should be elongated, and he should also have long nose, and the presence of partially closed eyes in almost all the idols of Buddha belonging to Gandhar art. Let's now analyze these features with the help of images. Now, these three images of Buddha are from Gandhar school of art. Now, here you can clearly see the hair knot as well as wavy hairs in all of these three different images. There is a presence of bindi which can be clearly seen here, here, as well as here. Then elongated ears. Just observe the length of these ears with respect to the length of the face. And you can also see that in almost all the images, Buddha has his eyes partially closed. So these are Indo-Greek features of the Gandhar art. Now, the presence of detailed drapery on the body of Buddha, as well as the presence of halo around the face of Buddha, was another very important feature of Indo-Greek element in Gandhar art. Let's now analyze these. Now, coming back to the same images, you can easily see the presence of halo surrounding the face of Buddha in both these images. And you can see the detailed drapery and the exquisite carving which has been done to show the clothes hanging from his body. This is another very important Indo-Greek element in Gandhar art. Now, the synthesis and the confluence of Indo and Greek style of was going on parallelly with the changes that had crept into the religious outlook of Buddhism due to the influence of devotional school of Hindu philosophy, requiring the worship of personal gods. So in Gandhar art, the image becomes the main element of sculpture and worship. Let's now move on to Central Asian features or elements of Gandhar art. As we have discussed that Central Asians or the Kushans were later entrants into India as compared to the Greeks. So as they entered into the country, they not only protected the Gandhar style but also modified it. Some of the modifications into Gandhar art due to Central Asians or the Kushans are: the face later on became more oval, the shoulder of Buddha became more broader and muscular, and the cheeks became slightly more chubby, and elongation of arms. Let's now look at two different images of Gandhar art after it was influenced by Central Asian features. Now, these are the two images having Central Asian influence on Gandhar art. You can clearly make out the broadening of shoulders and increased muscularity in the bodily physique of Buddha. You can also see the elongation of arms clearly. The increased chubbiness of the face is also clearly visible as compared to purely Indo-Greek sculpture of Gandhar art. Let's now try and answer the question. The question asks, highlight the Central Asian and Greco-Bactrian elements in Gandhar art. So as far as the identification of parts is concerned, we have two main parts to this question. First is we have to mention Central Asian features, and the second part is to mention Greco-Bactrian elements. The answer should ideally begin with an introduction. An introduction in this case can start by defining Gandhar art. Immediately after defining the Gandhar art, it is advisable to directly move on to describing the elements derived from Greco-Bactrian sources and Central Asian sources. So, after mentioning these 2 points separately, the demands of the questions are more or less fulfilled. It is important to end with a conclusion. And conclusion in this case can be about stating that how the continuous influx of people from outside India has led to evolution of a unique art form known as Gandhar art. With this, we come to the end of the discussion today. Stay tuned to Rouse IS channel for analysis of rest of the GS Mains questions 2019.